Um, so what changes when this happens? When the whole world on this earth ends up and starts believing and coming to God. Is it, like I put in my description, is it man's free will that all of a sudden the whole entire world starts choosing God after 6,000 years of this never happening, just never could happen? Now this is going to start happening, right? Isaiah, for the Lord has comforted his people, he has redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. All the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. We have this written throughout of scriptures. Every book has something about it. Revelations, it's in there. Revelation more than once. In one of the beginning chapters, but there's a verse in Isaiah also that says, when God's judgments are in the earth, all the inhabitants of the earth shall learn righteousness. Speaking of all of it, when his judgments are in the earth. Now, he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. They shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels. That's what God's doing to us right now, his chosen. Those who do believe, in the Father and are on this path. That's what he's doing to us now. He's dashing us to pieces. So what on earth can the harlot say here? Nothing. They can't say anything. They just can't. They don't like this truth. Someday, the kingdoms of this earth, everyone in it, will start believing and worshiping God, and the curse will be removed, and everything's going to be good for the 1,000 years. And some people there's people out there, they're like on another level spiritual. They're so spiritual that nothing is literal, not a single word. These are the people you watch out for that start saying Christ consciousness, and we start going into another consciousness, and they keep using that word, where they believe literally the book is like some uninspired writing. Really, this is what the Jews thought back then. Revelation was about Rome, and they wanted to comfort the people and say Christ is coming soon or something. The way they speak of his word is blasphemy. They don't actually believe it. The people who starts most of these, I believe, Christ consciousness, and we move in. These are the same kind of pagans that say we are our own gods and we have to enter into that consciousness. This is extreme pride. Ye shall be as gods. There is no such thing as you are your own God, and this is what you do, and you've entered into a different, there's some nasty stuff and deceptions out there. They believe that they are gods, that, they've chosen some good thing and they do this good thing, and everything in Revelation and all of scriptures, they mock. Oh God, it's not talking about a prophecy 1,500 years later, 2,000 years later. It's already been done. It's already been done. Maybe I should read Deuteronomy, 28? Blessings and curses. Yeah, there's first that goes with the blessings, and then the cursings are a lot. This is Deuteronomy. They had this during Moses' time. We believe that Moses wrote these. Most likely it was Moses that written the 5 books, the first. They had the law, they had the writings way back then, during his time. And what does it say in Deuteronomy? What was it, like 1,500 years from Moses to the end of the Old Covenant? It's a long time. Deuteronomy. But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of the Lord your God to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today, all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Cursed shall you be in the city, and cursed shall you be in the country. Cursed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body and the produce of your land, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. Cursed shall be you be when you come in, and cursed shall you be when you go out. The Lord will send on you cursing, confusion, and rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly, because of the wickedness of your doings in which you have forsaken me. The Lord will make the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the land which you are going to possess. The Lord will strike you with which you are going to possess. This is prophecy. The Lord will strike you with consumption, with fever, with inflammation, with severe burning fever, with the sword, with scorching, and with mildew. They shall pursue you until you perish. Who's they? Who are they? Nations, other people. They will pursue you until you perish. And your heavens which are over your head shall be bronze, and the earth which is under you shall be iron. The Lord will change the rain of your land to powder and dust from the heavens. From heaven it shall come down on you until you are destroyed. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and you shall become troublesome to all the kingdoms of the earth. Your carcasses shall be food for all the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. Don't we read that in Revelation? Yeah, because it happened already. It happened. Birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and no one shall frighten them away. The Lord will strike you with the boils of Egypt, with tumors, with the scab, and with the itch, from which you cannot be healed. The Lord will strike you with madness and blindness and confusion of heart. You shall grope at noonday as a blind man gropes in darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ways. You shall be only oppressed and plundered continually, and no one shall save you. You shall betroth a wife, but another man shall lie with her. You shall build a house, but you shall not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, but shall not gather its grapes. Your ox shall be slaughtered before your eyes, but you shall not eat of it. Your donkey shall be violently taken away from before you, and you shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given to your enemies, and you shall have no one to rescue them. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long. And there shall be no strength in your hand. A nation whom you have not known shall eat the fruit of your land and the produce of your labor. And you shall be only oppressed and crushed continually, so you shall be driven mad because of the sight which your eyes see. Lord will strike you in the knees and on the legs with severe boils that cannot be healed, and from the sole of your foot to the top of your head. Lord will bring you and the king whom you set over you to nation which neither you nor your fathers have known, and therefore you shall serve other gods, wood and stone, and you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations where the Lord will drive you. This is the scattering of physical Israel, right? You shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations where the Lord will drive you. You shall carry much seed out to the field, but gather little in, for the locust shall consume it. You shall plant vineyards and tend them, but you shall neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. You shall have olive trees throughout all your territory, but you shall not anoint yourself with the oil, for your olives shall drop off. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity. Locusts shall consume all your trees and the produce of your land. The alien who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall come down lower and lower. He shall lend to you, but you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you and pursue and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep his commandments, statutes, and he commanded you, and they shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder, and on your descendants forever, age abiding. Because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and gladness of heart for the abundance of everything, therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the Lord will send against you in hunger and thirst and nakedness and need of everything, and he will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he had destroyed you. The Lord will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you will not understand, a nation of fierce countenance which does not respect the elderly, nor show favor to the young, and they shall eat the increase of your livestock and the produce of your land until you are destroyed. They shall not leave you grain or new wine or oil or the increase of your cattle or the offsprings of your flocks until they have destroyed you. They shall besiege you at all your gates until your high and fortified walls in which you trust come down throughout all your land, and they shall besiege you at all your gates throughout all your land which the Lord God has given you. You shall eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom the Lord your God has given you, in the siege and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you. A sensitive and very refined man among you will be hostile toward his brother, toward his wife of his bosom, and toward the rest of his children whom he leaves behind, so that he will not give any of them the flesh of his children whom he will eat, because he has nothing left in the siege and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, whom would not venture to set the sole of her foot on the ground because of her delicateness and sensitivity, will refuse to the husband of her bosom and to her son and her daughter, her placenta which comes out from between her feet, and her children from whom she bears, for she will eat them secretly for lack of anything in the siege and desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you at your gates. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and awesome name, Yahweh your Elohim, Lord your God, then the Lord will bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and prolonged plagues, and serious and prolonged sicknesses. Moreover, he will bring back on you all the diseases of Egypt, of which you were afraid, and they shall cling to you. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in this book of the law will the Lord bring upon you until you are destroyed. You shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven in multitude, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. And it shall be that just as the Lord rejoiced over you to do good and multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and bring you to nothing, and you shall be plucked off from the land which you go to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you shall serve other gods which neither you know, which either you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone, and among those nations you shall find no rest, nor shall the sole of your foot have a resting place. But there the Lord will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and anguish of soul. Your life shall hang in doubt before you. You shall fear day and night, and have no assurance of life. In the morning you shall say, oh, that it were evening, and at evening you shall say, oh, that it were morning, because of the fear which terrifies your heart, and because of the sight which your eye sees. The Lord will take you back to Egypt in ships, by the way of which I said to you, you shall never see it again. And there you shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. Man, Deuteronomy 28. That happened, just so you get a little taste of what actually happened in 70 AD when they got crushed. All of what I just read happened. They ate their flesh, they ate their babies, they were confused, diseased, and they were driven out in all the land and put in ships. I wonder who these people are. I don't think I'm going to say too much more, but there's no blessing for them until the end of the Gentiles. That's what I read. They shall be trampled by Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. They will never be above. They're always going to go lower and lower and be servants. And they're afraid and they have terror, you know, some serious punishment. And they were going to be driven out in all nations and be servants to all. And there is no scripture that says they would come out of it until the Gentiles' time be fulfilled. Christ understood that. He said, "You will be Jerusalem will be trampled." All Jerusalem, not, you know, first Jerusalem, natural, until the time of the Gentiles, people who are not blood Hebrews back then, you know, be fulfilled. There's no scripture that said they would be untrampled or rise above this, but it's all the way until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So who are those people in Israel over there? Because I read that they're trampled, whoever they are, until the time of the end. I think it's the big deception. I think it's a giant deception over there in Jerusalem. That's what I'm seeing. And those are some serious curses. That happened. That happened in Jerusalem. That was the destruction. You want to see people who are super spiritual and they sort of just Christ consciousness and they throw away like God's prophecy and word. And it was like for Jews, and this is how they talked back then. These people are deceivers. That was written like 1500 years before that happened. So God not prophesying for hundreds and hundreds of years before is a total lie. They had the book and laws of Moses, and from Moses to the old covenant, when it ended, I think it was something like 1500 years from Moses. So that's a long time. That's a long time. And then trampled until the end of the Gentiles be fulfilled. If this is the period of the Gentiles, understanding what the Gentiles meant back then, anyone who's not a blood Hebrew, spiritually a Gentile is an unbeliever today, that they would be trampled. That means no matter how long this time is, the new covenant to the end, that they would also be trampled during that whole time. So people that say that God does not prophesy, for 1500 years, for 3000, I don't think so. And the seed of Christ back in Genesis, and I do believe that wasn't written all the way back then, but somehow they either through divine or they had records kept through all that time. We have the stories from what happened from Genesis, the seed, a promise. That was also a promise that, and Christ reigning until the end, all enemies under his feet. That's a prophecy that includes all, a huge chunk of time. So these people are liars. They start becoming prideful with their own Christ consciousness, rising to some level no one else is. I've found a few of these people, and they don't really believe in revelation, or this is how the Jews talk back then. They don't believe in the prophecies that there will be a coming of Christ. They start denying that, Christ's coming is his second coming is him coming to you. And even though we understand that that is true in that Christ comes to us, we believe, we have the Spirit, there is a Christ coming, to deliver for salvation. They start denying this. Stay away from those kind of people when they start denying, because they cannot comprehend that I'm coming quickly, since it hasn't been since he didn't come in 10 years, therefore it's a lie. Revelation is spiritual. It applies to us, but there's also a manifestation of these beastly kingdoms, a manifestation of the sons of God, whoever they are, and they're going to be attacked. I full on believe it. It has to go down like Jerusalem, It's going to be something like that. New Jerusalem's going to be punished. It's going to have a heavy, judgment. People who don't believe in God, just like Jerusalem, all that time, they were kind of cursed here and there, driven out, brought back. But that Deuteronomy 28 is specifically that final destruction of natural Jerusalem. All of that and other things it says happen to them. That's not written in this book. That's written elsewhere. He says would also happen. The blessings were way shorter than the cursings. It's tons of verses. So who are those people over there? And they got their land back. The old covenant, it's done away, The natural Hebrews are not of importance that I can see, because all are one under Christ. It's not that they're not important, but there's no distinguishing now. Everyone is one under Christ. There is no Jew, there's no Greek, there's no Gentiles, there's no female, there's no male. All these distinguishing things don't really matter in his kingdom. They're all one. And I read they're going to be trampled until the very end, till the time of Gentiles was fulfilled. And I believe that's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious. The time of Gentiles being fulfilled is Christ coming, where no more Gentiles are called. Obviously, right? Then no more Gentiles are called, building up his kingdom, New Jerusalem. This is why I believe it's a part of some kind of end time deception. Jerusalem over there is definitely some kind of sign that we're getting towards, some kind of end, but it's going to be deceptive. It's not going to be like, oh, we all figured it out. The whole world figured it. It's going to be deceiving to everyone. Anyone doesn't have the mark of the beast, spiritually, they're already deceived, it's going to be extremely deceiving. So if these things start to take place, watch out, do what Christ says, don't go anywhere, don't believe it. It comes like lightning from like the east to the west. If you have 5 seconds to say, oh, it's Christ, it's a lie. It's a lie. You won't even have breath to say it. It'll be instant. Changed in a moment, twinkling of an eye, right? That's what it says. And everyone's going to fall for it. I said in another video or two, I have a hard time believing that everyone's going to fall for this end time thing. This man, his kingdom, he's going to come across as, I think, charismatic. He's going to trash the current system, I believe, to make himself look like he cares, expose many of their lies and their trafficking and all the things they do, trash them so that he gets the people behind him. He's going to look extremely good. It's going to be extremely deceptive. Daniel speaks of some man, it's in there, that he's the God of like gods. No one else is like him because he claims to actually be the God, And I know of one person that's claiming that right now. He says he's waiting for his power to, I don't know how serious but I keep an eye on him because it's pretty crazy what he said. Lord Stephen Christ calls himself Lord Stephen Christ, and he's repeatedly said he's waiting for his power, and he gets angry. He tells him, I'm God, I'm your Lord. I created you. I'm in the flesh and I'm learning. It's crazy. It's so stupid. It's so easy. I mean, there's people believing. He's growing slowly. It's not very big. But I think there's going to be more people like that literally claim to be God, towards the end. It's going to be like that. It would be hilarious if this was like a man that was to rise up someday and be given power, because the beast will be given power in this physical manifestation. He's going to be given some kind of power, and we even say he's able to do some lying wonders or something. So this whole thing, it seems like it's being wrapped up. This whole coronavirus, the vaccine, I think they want mandated vaccines. They're going to try to vaccine everyone. You shouldn't do it, should not do it. But I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but I know it's getting crazy though. It's starting to get crazy. They didn't have these signs before, 200 years ago. They didn't have Jerusalem over there for a deception. They didn't have all the religions. Like, you can see them becoming one. They want to do that, and it's starting to happen. That's why I think it's close. The religions becoming one is like one of the greatest signs. All the religions becoming one. When the whole world becomes one, nothing will restrain them, God says about Babylon. All this people are one, building that tower, and nothing in their hearts will, how does he say it? Nothing in their hearts restrains them from doing what they want. So their intentions are evil. So then God stopped it, scattered them, sent them confusion. And on this end time, I think everyone's going to be sent strong delusion. And he's going to stop the plan eventually, but it's coming together. I don't think we're crazy who believe this, understanding that virtually like every generation has said Christ would come, but we have real evidence here. Jerusalem over there has been here for what, 70 something years, 70 something. The world's becoming one. The technology is insane. This is just recent. This is all just recent. Cash is dying. We got a lot of things coming together for this world becoming one. I don't see another 100 years or even 50, I don't see it. I'm not sure I even see 20, but I don't know for sure. I think this corona is the beginning of tests. This is just the beginning. Just wait and see a year or two from now something that's 3 times worse is corona. I'm convinced of it. It's just going to get worse from here on out. Maybe a little period of normalcy, but it won't be like 8 years before the next like global kind of pandemic. It's not going to be that long. It just won't. I don't see it. 9/11 could have been symbolic, maybe. Towers falling, 2 towers symbolic of the destruction that's coming soon, kind of see that as a symbol, a sign. But I think that's it. So I just wanted to read that chapter and show you how bad they, cursed from this law, that they could not keep. So we have something much better. We have a much better covenant. We're supposed to take sin seriously, He curses us spiritually with the spiritual blinding and destruction. That's why all those people in Hollywood, they're all like, they're right on the edge of like suicide, most of them. The ones that make it, God has enough mercy on them where they don't go insane. But so many of them are insane and they end up killing themselves because they gain this whole world. They have like total spiritual destruction. It's not good. It's not good. It's not worth it. Virtually all of them are hanging in there by drugs and alcohol and other things, they're just barely making it. All that fame has just destroyed them. So you can't just do whatever you want unless you would like to be destroyed spiritually. Lose all faith, all hope for everything, because God, like he says to his people, I will send them confusion. I will send them blinding so they just cannot see anything. I'll put fear in them. He's able to do that. That's how he judges people. All the inhabitants of the earth, when God's judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the earth will learn righteousness. All of the world. Revelation, it's in Isaiah, it's in all the other books. All the families of the earth shall be blessed. This is coming where the whole world's going to learn. But what changes? What changes? His judgments start to become in the earth, which means that they're not all in the earth right now. Specifically, grace, his spirit, his chastising grace, judgments, which are on a few people now. They're on a few. This is going to start happening to everyone. This is why. Not because they're good or they chose good. That's another crazy thing that the church world doesn't understand. All of the world, it clearly teaches this. It's all flesh shall see God. All of them shall see, shall see salvation. When his judgments are on the earth, they're all going to learn righteousness. Why? Because God's pouring out his spirit on all flesh. Because he's doing this work. And if he can do it on all the world in a short amount of time, all of a sudden, why would he ditch the rest of creation would be the great question for the church world. He's going to save all of creation on earth, and it's going to have a time of peace and restoration, and the curse, I believe, lifted away during this period of time. Christ and his saints judging, dashing the nations with righteousness. Why would he dump the rest of creation? It's kind of crazy. It's to say he's partial. God could just snap his fingers and boom, save the whole world, and now he's going to leave the rest of creation behind. No, it's this great plan of revealing himself throughout the ages, more and more, more and more. So the next age to come is going to be another greater revealing, specifically for the saints, because they're going to be part of the first resurrection, the better resurrection. And this will continue until he's all in all. He's going to continue until he's all in all. Never let someone take away the gospel from you. Anything else is death. It's lies, confusion, contradiction, says God is weak. He tries his best but fails. It's real blasphemy, really. Because he wills that nobody perishes. They say, yeah, God doesn't want anyone to perish, but everyone ends up perishing anyways, 98%. for all eternity. So God, what do they ultimately say? He wants to, but can't do it. That is a serious blasphemy. That's why the harlot has blasphemy written on her name. They say God cannot do all things. There's one thing he cannot do. Cannot save everyone. Can't do it. With that, I think I'm going to end and say that he can and will do it.